Hey, everybody, welcome to Jim Flies 2. I'm on the road right now. I'm in Riverside, Iowa at the Riverside Casino playing a gig with Carla Del Viaggio. And it is a, um, a Barbara Streisand kind of tribute show that she does. And she's from Florida. And I got in this about noon. And it was about 3.5 hour drive from Wisconsin down here. And anyway, we don't have anybody showing up yet. I hope we have some people coming in live. Want to do this? See if we can generate some interest. I've got an interesting story though to tell everyone, which I will get to shortly, whether I've got live people or not, because it can be watched later. But I've decided that um, it'd be great to do some stories from the 42 years that I've been out doing some gigging and stuff like that. So I just thought it'd be kind of fun to do a little bit of a hang and see what you all thought about that. Um, so anyway, uh, came down to the Riverside Casino here, and we've got this neat gig lined up. It's going to be about an hour and a half show, and it goes tomorrow, kind of during a brunch hour, like so around 11:30 or noon, something like that. And then we'll play the show and have the rest of the day to hang out. But anyway, so my story. I got a call in 1992 to play this show, this concert with Diane Schuur at the Oscar Mayer Theater in Madison, Wisconsin. Hot dog, that was a fun place. It's no longer there. It's now called the Capitol Theater, and it's in part of the Overture Center. And by the way, anybody wants to chat, I want to do this live, so I will respond, to anybody that wants to chat. So chat away if you'd like. Let me see what this does. Live chat. All messages are visible. Yeah, that sounds good. Um, anyway, so I moved to Madison, Wisconsin in 1990, and I had been playing by that time, I'd been playing about 11 years and doing lots of jazz gigs, big band gigs, and everything. And I soon established myself as a well known and well called for jazz player and big band drummer. So anyway, through some of my contacts and playing compadres, I developed a little bit of a network, and myself and a bass player also from town who we worked with in a trio and did lots of work, did a lot of gigs together. Um, she was tagged to play bass, and I thought it'd be a big band gig because I'd heard the stuff that she had done, Diane Schuur had done with the Count Basie Orchestra, and I was like, cool, this will be awesome. And because the big band whole thing is really in my wheelhouse. So anyway, I found out shortly after taking the gig that it was just going to be a trio. So I'm like, wow, that'll be intense. And so Diane's going to play piano and sing. So that's great. That's fine. Um, anyway, so I thought, well, that'll be pretty exposed. But I worked a lot with this bass player, and we were kind of the fast becoming the rhythm section for a lot of jazz gigs in town. We played with a lot of people, a lot of vocalists and other instrumentalists. So anyway, I got the call for the job, and I said yes, of course. And as the date approached, I was given the information to the tour manager. And when she got in town the day before the gig was on Saturday, April 25th, 1992. I had to look it up because I couldn't remember. This is 29 years ago, whatever, 29 years ago. So I called her up and I said, yeah, hi, my name's Jim, and I'm going to be playing drums with Diane Schuur, and I was wondering if I could get a look at the book and the charts before played. And she said, oh, yeah, absolutely. We're staying at the Edgewater Hotel downtown Madison on the lake, and you can come down and just have them ring my room. Then she gave me her name and all that. and contact information, phone number. And she said, we will be doing, stuff from this album and this album and this, lots of different recordings. I'm like, okay. So, but there was like 3 albums mainly that we were really going to be drawing material from. So I went down to the CD store and I could find 2 of them. And I'm like, great, so I picked up the charts at the hotel, and she gave me kind of a briefing. She says, don't call her Diane. Okay, it's either Miss Schuur or call her Deedles. She really preferred Deedles. She really hates the name Diane. She feels like that sounds like a wicked stepmother's name, Diane, or being called by a wicked stepmother or something like that. And so I'm like, okay, cool, Deedles it is. So I didn't meet her at that time. I just met with the tour manager, the road manager. So I did the meeting with her, and then went home and I opened up the CDs, and I sit back, and I put one on, and I'm looking at the liner notes, and I'm like going, oh, Steve Gadd on drums, Carlos Vega on drums, Neil Steubenhaus bass. Who else was on that? Dave Grusin. I mean, this is GRP All-Star cast of characters, right? And of course, Diane Schuur was on the GRP label. And so I'm like, wow, this is intense. I'm like, I'm a little bit floored, and this is too much. I'm just expecting a jazz gig. And I, of course, knew who she was, and very respected, and like the top lady jazz, it was really awesome. So anyway, yeah, this was 1991 and 92, excuse me, 92. And so I listened through everything. I looked over the charts. I'm like, nothing too difficult, standard big band type charts, but they were pared down for, a trio. So I looked everything over. I'm like, okay, so, I'll go down and do the rehearsal tomorrow at like 1 o'clock or something like that, and meet her and all that. Well, when I met the tour manager, I said, well, who does she normally have playing drums on tour with her on these small group kinds of things? And she goes, well, she uses Jim Rupp a lot. And this, I'm like, really? Jim Rupp? I know him. I saw him play with the Woody Herman Big Band back in 1984 at a concert, and got to hang out with him a little bit after the show. And a lot of the guys in the band, including Woody, that were hanging out at a bar right attached to the hotel where we were staying, or where they were staying. And so I said, okay, Jim Rupp, cool. And I said, I know him from Ohio because I was working in Ohio for about 3 years, and he owns Columbus Percussion Center. Columbus CPC was the place where all professional drummers would go and get their stuff. So anyway, I said, well, that's cool. And it's always nice to drop a name and get some kind of a feel for, give people some comfort, you know what I mean? And so we get to the rehearsal, and, we were all set up and ready to go, the bass player and myself. And then tour manager comes in, and she came up to us, and she goes, well, I'll bring Miss Schuur in so that you can meet her now. And I'm like, okay, great. This is a lot of staging, like we're ready to meet the queen, And of course, she was a huge, very popular star, in the jazz world. So she comes in, and she told us, now don't reach out for her because, she's blind and everything. You got to respect that. She said, don't reach out to her. She'll reach out for you, and then you can offer your hand or something like that. Or if she offers you a hug, you're certainly welcome to do that. So I'm like, okay, cool. And so anyway, my friend Laurie was on bass, and I was on drums. And we also played there was a warm-up act. We did an opening set with a jazz quintet. And so she comes out, and she's like, we were introducing, hey, Deedles, this is Jim, and he's playing drums. You go, hey, I heard my man Jimmy. I said, yeah, I know Jim, and I'm like, I don't know him like firsthand, like we're buddies, but, I know him, I've talked to him, and, I know he's an incredibly respected drummer. And so, oh, well, this is going to be great, man. It's going to be awesome. I said, yeah, it should be really cool. I'm really looking forward to it. Welcome, George Lucas, drummer. Cool. So anyway, we made our introductions, and she goes, "Okay, well, we're gonna have some fun." And she made her way over to the piano and everything, a Steinway, and we started looking at the charts and everything, and rehearsing, and everything's going along pretty good. Everything's cool. Wait for it. You got to stay with this story because there's a really good part coming toward the end, and it was kind of intense. I'm gonna say that much. So stay tuned. So we do the rehearsal and we're into the charts, and they read down like big band charts, but again, pared down for small group. And so, swinging, everything's cool, no solos for me, nothing like that. Pretty straight up, play the tunes, and you're going to play the ink because, you know, there's not like a visual cueing thing. And there was really nothing worked out that way. She didn't say like, okay, if we get lost, I'll give you a big, nod or something like that. There was nothing like that. It was just like play the charts, okay? So they're standard big band charts, easy to read, no problem. Very professional level. So I did the rehearsal. We got to the one of the tunes though, and it was a ballad, a really slow ballad, and there was this part where the bass player, my dear friend, was having trouble reading that particular rhythmic phrase. And it was like, a typical ballad, boom, doom, doom, boom, goo, goo, doo, that kind of a thing. But there's this one part that was really open, bum, 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 that kind of a thing. From Brazil. Okay, George is from Brazil. Jorge is from Brazil. Welcome. I love Brazilian music. I want to come there and I want to check out Kiko Freitas because he is an incredible drummer from Brazil. Back to my story about the Beatles. Um, so anyway, she's not getting that figure, and it's like they're running it and running it, and it's starting to get tense, and you can feel it. I mean, you can feel the vibe in the room is like it's not exactly comfortable at this point. So at one point I get up off my drum throne and I go over there and I kind of put my hand on the bass player's shoulder. We were tight, super tight, I mean, we still are 31 years later or 29 years later. And I said, so it's just bum, 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 bum. And Beatles is like, yeah, come on, we'll do it again. We'll do it again. We'll play this again, and they played it again, flubbed it up a little bit, and they played it again. And she's like, come on, we're gonna get this, mother father. And she wasn't saying father, if you know what I'm saying. It was like, whoa, she's like uptight, dude. She's uptight about this. So that didn't really help, set the tone for like a mellow kind of everything's cool rehearsal. So anyway, we worked through that chart and we get through a few other things. And then we did a little bit of a run through with the saxophone player who'd booked us as talent for this show. He kind of worked as the booking guy. And he was going to play a tune with Beatles and us. And, he's tuning it up and he's playing and she stops. She goes, honey, you're playing way sharp. And he's like, oh, okay. So, and that happens to a lot of sax players, right? They play sharp because, they're having troubles hearing themselves. They play a little sharp and out of tune. It cuts through in a different way and you can audibly hear it better. So, and they play, he goes, Dean, you're still sharp, baby. Yeah. It's like, okay. So anyway, so we get through the rehearsal and then, we're at the end of the rehearsal and she's like, this piano is too tight. This is a stiff piano. And, by this time, the stage, one of the stagehands that had done I don't know, the staging and stuff like that. He might have been the sound guy too, I think, actually. He was like, yes, it is. It's an old piano. It was a Steinway, man. It's like a 9-foot Steinway. It's a great piano. It was older, but it's a Steinway. It's awesome, right? But she was like uptight about a lot of stuff, man. And it's starting to show. So anyway, we take our break. We say goodbye, go home, have supper, whatever, put on the tux, come back for the gig, which is an 8 o'clock hit. And so I have the opening set with the bass player, piano, sax, and trombone player and myself. And we do our half-hour set or whatever, and there's like maybe 10 minutes, and then Diane Schuur comes on. And so we re-enter the stage, and we come out and we play, and kick off a tune, typical, upswing, nice, really, really very cool. And so we do that, and everything's fine. We do a few tunes, and everything's okay, but I can sense there's a little tension going on stage. And she stops and she's like, she didn't stop in the tune, but after one of the songs, she goes, I need a throat coating. And it was kind of like harsh and kind of like tense. It wasn't like, um, Sheila, can you get me a throat coating or something like that, like through the mic, to her stage manager or her tour manager. It was like, I need a throat coating. And I was like, wow. And so we kind of like, okay, take a drink of water ourselves and get ready for the next chart. And so, we play through a couple more tunes, and we do some things and whatever. And I think she did one by herself. So the rhythm section, the bass and drums are completely out. When we come back, play a couple more tunes. We get to this one tune, and it's like we're playing along, and she goes off onto the scatting thing, and just like into it. And like we leave the chart. We're clearly gone by now, there's no chart left. And I'm like, well, we're just going to keep playing. It's a jazz gig. So you just keep playing and do what you do on a jazz gig, and you listen. And so we get back. Somehow I hear these big band figures and these kind of things that were clearly like the shout chorus figures. I'm like, boom, there we are. Rehearsal letter F. And we caught it. We got right into it. No problem. Finished the tune. So that was a little bit weird, but it was touch and go, but it was worked out fine. No train wrecks, no nothing. It was great. So then we get to one of the last tunes, and we're playing along, and it's an up tune, and we get to this one spot, and she goes, drum solo. And I'm like, we hadn't talked about drum solo, we hadn't talked about trading fours, we hadn't talked about anything featuring me. And I'm like, okay, it's a jazz gig, so let's play some solo. So, I'm swinging, bang, typical jazz in the swing context, but rule number one, when you're at a jam session, don't showboat. Play your thing and get out of the way and let the leader do her thing, right? So I play a little bit, tasteful stuff, but I didn't go on long, and I didn't make it a big Mr. Jim feature, it was not really about me. So I just played some tasty stuff, and I cooled out, and I start playing time. And she comes on the mic and she goes, oh, you're going to have to give me more than that, honey. And I'm like, whew, I just started to prickle. You know what I'm saying? I was like, flush and prickle. And so I go back into a solo, and I do some stuff that's a little more like double time and a little faster and cooler. And it wasn't really following the form. It wasn't really free form exactly. It was just like, do some more stuff, because what it said to me is she was like, that sucked. Play some more. Now, she maybe didn't intend that. She maybe didn't intend that at all. I don't know. But that's how it came off to me, and that's how it felt. So anyway, we finished the tune and everything, and we get to the end of the night, and I pack up my stuff, and I was just feeling like, man, that was kind of cold, that was just weird, you gotta do some more for me than that, baby or honey. So I packed my stuff up, and my soon-to-be wife was at the show. I think my parents came to that show too. A few other people came up that I knew in the community and said, "Oh, great show, man! It was really nice." I'm like, "Oh, thanks. That was a little weird on that tune." And they were like, yeah, that was, but you played great, so don't sweat it. I'm like, yeah. But I felt vibed. I felt vibed by Deedles on stage, you know what I mean? And so I just said, I'm not going to go and do the backstage hang or the meet and greet. I'm just kind of like, that felt weird, And when you've been playing out and playing professional gigs, and I'd worked with Ernie Watts, I worked with Don Menza, I'd worked with Milt Hinton, who else? Quite a few people. Tony Sandler. I've done some high-level gigs at some nice theaters and things like that, right? But this was just a little bit wiggy. It was wiggy. That's what it was. So I just said, man, I'm packing my stuff up. I'm going home. So I packed my stuff up. I went home, and I was just kind of like, whew, yeah. That gig is done. Collected my money, collected my check, and I went. So the next day, well, no, the gig was on a Saturday night. So on Monday, I go into work and I do instrument repair. And it's been a great way to pair music performance and networking with the clientele that I repair for too. So I'm always working with jazz players and trombone players and trumpet players, and I work on their horns. I play gigs with them. So anyway, I go into work and I see this dude. His name is Brian, and Brian is he sees me from down the hall, and I walk toward him. I said, "So did you make it to the show?" And he goes, "Dude, that was cold, man." I said, "You saw it." He goes, "I sunk down in my seat when she said that to you, man." I was like, "Oh, man, are you kidding me?" He said there was ice on the walls. You could feel it. I mean, being a musician, I saw what was going on the stage, and you could sense there was tension. I said, "Well, I mean, it's like she's got two she's on the road and she's calling people from a local scene to come on and play with her, which is a pretty common practice unless you're doing like a small tour or a major tour and you've got, carrying your whole band. So it was not an unusual thing that way. But anyway, so I said, "Yeah, you caught that, huh?" I'm like, "Man, yeah, that was weird. I didn't hang out for the afterglow. I just left. I went home." So that was pretty weird, pretty wild. Okay, so like 2 years later, something like that, I'm doing a jazz festival as a clinician and a performer. And one of the people that was at that festival was this incredible trombone player, like one of the top five. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to call him out, but just like a really great trombone player, the bebop, like a bebop king, and this dude has played, with Maynard and a lot of people, So, anyway, he's like hanging in the green room before we go out and play our concert that night. And it's me and him and several other really top-notch players at this festival. So I hear him saying, and I hear him say this name, and I'm like, what happened? And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I just played New Year's Eve, with Beatles." And I won't go into it all right, it wouldn't be right, it wouldn't be professional, it wouldn't be nice. Anyway, he said, "Yeah, there were some things that happened on that gig too." I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I explained my little thing that happened to me, and he goes, "Dude, I'm sure you played great. I wouldn't worry about it. There was a lot of things going on, and it's probably just some insecurities or something like that." And, he kind of soft shoot it, but he's like, "No, no, 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 don't sweat that, man. I'm sure you were fine." So I felt vindicated after talking with him, Mr. Trombone. And anyway, she is the most magnificent artist. I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions on anyone. A wonderful artist to work with. I mean, I really enjoyed the gig for the most part. That one thing wigged me out and made me like not want to hang, but those tunes, those charts, the recordings stand for their own. You won't find a better jazz vocalist. So anyway, that's my little story from my gig with Diane Schuur back in '92. And yeah, I felt a little bit wigged on that, but the bass. Oh, I should say the bass player did go and do the after gig hang in the dressing room, and she was like really cool. I guess she was like, "Man, honey, you played great. I loved the way you played. Yeah, it was really fun. Nice time." So she was really cool to Lori, and I'm guessing that I was maybe overreacting and overthinking it, but I felt a little vibed. I felt vibed, and my buddy Brian, that was at the gig, he said, "Yeah, there was a vibe there." So anyway, that's my story with Beatles. I'm going to knock this off now, but I thank a few people for joining me, and whoever else is going to watch this in after I go off the live here. I'm going to catch dinner, and hey Thomas, how you doing? From Tucson, one of my brass customers. Yeah, I was just I don't know if you caught the whole thing, Tom, but I was just telling the story about my gig with Diane Schuur back in 1992. So anyway, look forward to working for you too. And maybe we'll get to do a gig. But anyway, like I had mentioned at the beginning of this, I am here at the Riverside Casino in Riverside, Iowa, playing a Barbra Streisand tribute gig with Carla Del Viaggio. And she's a magnificent singer, and we're waiting for her to get in. We did our afternoon rehearsal, and so now we're going to do our evening rehearsal. We're going to catch dinner, and then I think she gets picked up at the airport like at 9 p.m. So anyway, yeah, you'll get that horn to me. Cool. Sounds good, Thomas. Thanks. Anyway, we're going to do a late night rehearsal, or 9 o'clock rehearsal, run through, probably a couple hour run through, because it's a lot of material. And Barbra Streisand had a huge career, still going. You know, I mean, she played the musicals, she did recordings, jazz things, movies, rock, disco. I mean, she has done it all. What an incredible performer. And to do this show with Carla is an amazing thing. My friend Chris Rottmeyer on piano, who's like, are there better piano players? I don't know. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people and some really great musicians. This dude absolutely kills in every possible way. Thank you, George. I'm glad you like watching me. You don't speak English. Well, I don't speak Portuguese, my friend, so sorry. Except Kiko Freitas. That's it. But that's okay. Thanks for sending the notes. But anyway, so, and then Nick Moran on bass. Nick's a magnificent bass player, and we worked together in Madison, Wisconsin a fair amount. And I've played a little bit with Chris, but we just met actually about 1.5 years ago. And so I'm looking forward to doing more of these now that I know the book, now that I know the tunes and the charts, and they're pretty much like, they're written kind of big bandy, but this group can be just piano and Carla doing the Barbra Streisand thing, or it can be a trio, or it can be an 8-piece, you know, kind of orchestrated, doing it that way. So I really look forward to doing this as this trio tonight, and plus the vocalist, so a quartet, really. But I look forward to maybe the opportunity to do it as a small big band and stuff like that. So thank you all for checking in. Yeah, sure. That's good. I appreciate you hanging out and listening to my story with Deedles. Like I said, you know, it was a great opportunity, and you never know what you're going to get from whom you work with. But your thing is, you got to show up on time. You got to be sober. You got to be able to play. That goes, and you know what? You've got to be able to feel the vibe. Sometimes weird things go on, and you can't just stop. You know, you can't just quit playing. You know, and sometimes you gotta just kind of go with it, and whatever it is, you just make it work. Play the music. Play for the artist. Don't play for yourself as a drummer, right? So that's it. Thank you all for joining me in my story. I hope you caught it. And any drummers out there that have been on the bandstand, that have felt vibed, think about being in front of 1,500 people and getting a little ice. I don't know. You gotta give me more than that, baby. Well, I don't like the showboat. I'm here for the music. I'm here for the artist, not for me. So that's my excuse. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Jim Flies 2 out. If you like this, subscribe. If you like the repair videos, keep checking those out, because I'll be putting more up. But I'm going to be doing more stories from my 42 years of gigging life, as well as the repairs from my 34 years of repair world in the brass instruments. So here we are, almost at 30 minutes, and we're going to shut down now. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you later. Jim Flies 2 out. Take care. Bye-bye.